Every single time an Elgato product comes out, like clockwork, you get the, I can 3D print that with filament I grew in my backyard, and I'm going to code my very own application for half the price crowd. It's a never-ending and quite exhausting battle. However, as somebody who thoroughly enjoys Elgato products and thinks the majority of them are properly valued, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at other options from competitors. Listen, I get it. Money matters. Not to me. Who has 2 thumbs and lives in a 900 square foot house in a city that's notorious for rat infestation? This guy. Office is 8 by 9 feet. Our bedroom doesn't even have a dresser. Our closet can't even fit 2 people's clothes. What I'm trying to say here is that it wasn't long ago that I was using lamps from Target using regular light bulbs that had paper and trash bags tied around it to center the light to make it a hard light. Total cost was like $16. I could control the brightness of that light by taping more printer paper over the front of it if I needed to make it dimmer. You can make cheap, janky things work really well if you're creative enough, and honestly, do that as long as you can. But sometimes you get to a point, whether in your career or your content, where money isn't really life or death, and you care more about time than money and how much convenience that money can buy. So that's why in today's video, we're going to take a look at the Elgato Key Light Mini, do an unboxing and overview of its specs, and compare that to 2 other small form factor LED panels, the Villtrox L116t and the Aputure MC. I've used the Aputure MCs for a little over a year now, and the Villtrox for like 3 years now. And then we're going to compare those against the Elgato Key Light Mini. Now, before we get started, I want to say, like always, that I did get one of these products for free. It was a gift from your mom, actually. A bit of a, dare I say, thank you for the wonderful evening that I provided. That is, if your mom works at Elgato in the business relations department who finds content creators to review products. You go, Mom. Elgato kindly provided the Key Light Mini with no script, no talking points, no commission, affiliate chip, compensation, and unfortunately they have to hear these terrible mom jokes at the same time you do, so let's open some cardboard. In this box, we have another box, and in that box, we should have a light box. Front and center, we have the Key Light Mini, and you'll get a quick glimpse at the controls on the side of the key light, as well as some of the indicators on the back. On the side here, you have a USB Type-C connector, the power button, a 2-way toggle switch that's also a button, and a reset. In the surprise compartment, you have a USB Type-C to Type-A cable. There are a few manuals and quick start guides, of course, that have a few handy details. And here is another quick look at the unique USB cable. That bad boy does a little bit of a U-turn, which is dope. Alrighty, let's dive into some specs. So the LED panel itself shines quite bright at 800 lumens, has a color range of 2900 to 700 Kelvin, and a CRI rating of 94. The included battery is a 4000 milliamp lithium polymer battery, and as mentioned before, the USB port on the side can be used to charge the device while actually being able to bypass the battery to save its life if you have it plugged in for long battery sessions. Sessions. So that's good. I'm not re-recording that. Said battery can be fast charged if you'd like for up to 3 amps at 5 volts. The panel itself measures at 147 by 100 millimeters with a depth of 17 millimeters and weighs about 300 grams. This lovely little device does have both smartphone and Wi-Fi connection possibilities, utilizing the Stream Deck Control Center ecosystem. So before we get into opinions about the Elgato Key Light Mini, I want to get into comparing its specs to these 2 other units that I've been using. So this comparison is really going to be in 2 stages. So first off, white paper spec for specs for all 3 devices. This is going to be what each of them has or doesn't have. Now, once we get all that out of the way, we'll do some more practical, non-scientific testing of all the lights here in my office. All right, so I wrote down all of the important, at least I thought important, specs of each of those devices. Even if only one of the 3 devices had a feature, I wanted to make sure to include it. So I will put this up on the screen right now in case you want to pause it and do a comparison of each feature or spec, and then we'll get into it. I'm not going to touch on all of them or in detail, so I just want to go over the ones that I think are important. So first, the price. You have the Elgato Key Light Mini coming in at $100, whereas the Aputure MC is $89 and the Villtrox is only $36. And there's reason for that, so don't shit your pants just yet. As far as the color accuracy, these are actually all pretty on par with each other. As far as the brightness goes, the Villtrox is the brightest at about 1,000 lumens, with the Elgato topping out at about 800 lumens, but the Villtrox definitely seems a lot brighter. The Aputure MC doesn't disclose how many lumens it is, but you can definitely tell in the testing layer that it's not as bright. As far as the battery goes, this is where we start to waver in similarities. Both the Elgato and the Aputure have a battery built in. It's rechargeable, but it's also not removable. While the Villtrox panel actually supports the NP style batteries, which if you're a video content creator in any fashion, there's a really good chance you already have some of those batteries sitting around. As far as smartphone apps, the Elgato and Aputure lights both have good working mobile apps, at least on iOS, where the Villtrox doesn't have any at all. The Aputure MC is the only light with RGB capabilities. It also comes with a bunch of other like scenes and like flashy goodness. By flashy goodness, I meant color effects. I just forgot my line. All 3 LED panels have a diffuser, but you'll see in the video samples how those will perform. All 3 lights have onboard controls that can be used independently of their smartphone or PC apps. Now, this is where the Villtrox starts to fall behind a little bit. There is no power cable or battery included. It does not have magnet mounting and no USB-C or Wi-Fi charging. There's also no Stream Deck integration. And so out of the box, you have to have another way of mounting it because it's not just going to sit up on its own like the Elgato and the Aputure light does. However, all 3 of these lights do have the 1/4" threading for mounting. They all only have it on one side. So if you're looking to mount them vertical, you're gonna have to figure out a different way. And that's pretty much it for the spec for spec. So the reason that I showed you the graph is so that you could make the decision for yourself. I don't believe that I can tell you which one of these devices is the best because they all shine in different areas, different budgets, and they might suit you better. You have to look at what these devices have and what they don't have and decide what matters most to you, what convenience and features you are okay paying for, and which ones you're okay sacrificing. There is no best. There's only best for you. Now with the spec comparisons out of the way, we can get on to showing you a little bit of testing. Before I show this footage, a little bit of a disclaimer. I am not a lighting professional. I'm not even a lighting novice. I'm very new to this, but I want to learn. So if you have any advice or corrections or criticisms, please comment below. Let me know how I can improve, especially when it comes to like my testing parameters. Just do it gently. I am a small boy. So for the testing, I'm blacking out my entire office, turning off all lights, only using each LED as a key light. So you can see exactly how much coverage there is for the brightness and the temperatures, and then how harsh or soft that light is as well. So the constants of these tests, all of them were shot on my Sony a6400 in 4K, 30 FPS, 2.8 aperture, and a 400 ISO. The white balance was set to just the default, but not auto, with no adjustments whatsoever. And the lens is a Sigma 1.4 16mm, so it's on a crop sensor lens. So the camera for the testing is at 4 feet off the ground. The light was at a 30-degree angle, but 5.5 feet in height, pointing down at a 45-degree angle. I tried putting the light at 45 degrees, but it just didn't look good. I don't know if I had my spacing or distance off. It just looked better if I adjusted it a little bit. So that's the only thing. I know key lights are supposed to be at 45 degrees. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time telling you which one of these lights look the best because I don't think that I have the knowledge and the experience to tell you that. But just kind of looking through, like giving my first impressions, I mean, it's obvious looking at these samples that the Aputure MC is not meant to be used as a key light. Okay, so if that's part of your decision-making process, then let it be known. The Elgato and the Villtrox both do a great job of filling all that space. Now, looking at like the 75% brightness range and comparing between the Elgato and the Villtrox, I think the Elgato does a much better job of like maintaining a natural looking coverage of light, whereas the Villtrox is definitely a little bit more harsh, more harsh on the skin, but it does a better job of filling the shadows, where on the Elgato there's a lot more dark space over here. But again, a key light coming from the side isn't going to fill your entire face. I would say the Villtrox comes in a little bit warmer than the other ones do, but I would think the lighting is pretty comparable between the Elgato and the Villtrox. I wish at this point in time I could do a better job of telling you what lighting looks better, but I don't, and this will be something that I learn as time goes on. Okay, let's talk about some of the downfalls of each one of these products. Let's talk about the Elgato Key Light Mini first. First downfall, the price. So this is the most expensive panel without any RGB. So while it can't serve as many purposes as maybe the Aputure light can, the smaller list of things that it can do, I think that it does really well. You know, the color accuracy, how soft the light is with the diffusion. I definitely think that out of the three lights being used as a key light, the Elgato definitely comes out on top. And it's hard to, you know, compare it against the Aputure light because it's not meant to be a key light because it's not as large, but it is what it is. It is what it is. So app switching. When you are switching in between apps, at least on iOS, when you go out of the Elgato app and then you come back in, there's like a 5 to 10 second delay of getting reconnected to that device again. And that's kind of annoying because when I'm doing a setup shot and all of my lights are from different companies, I'm switching in between applications to control different lights and then always coming back to the Elgato one and having it sit and lag and wait. Got kind of annoying after a while. Connecting time. When the device is completely off and then you turn it on, especially if the battery has just died, the time it takes to reconnect to that device is long. Sometimes you're sitting there waiting for minutes in order for the app to find the Elgato Key Light again. With my newer panel that I'm using right here, as soon as I turn it on, it's findable in the app within seconds. With the Aputure, findable within like 10 to 15 seconds. Adjusting the brightness and the white balance on the Elgato with the onboard controls is absolutely awful. It is terrible. It takes way too long. It's super clunky. I don't like it at all. Going from the brightest point to the dimmest point holding the controls, it takes like 8 or 9 seconds. A little ridiculous. And lastly, if you turn off the light but the Wi-Fi is still active, the battery will drain. So if you turn off the light forgetting to disable the Wi-Fi, you will come back to a dead Elgato light. Okay, downsides of the Villtrox panel. If you happen to use this panel with a battery, there is no locking mechanism with the panel. So if you have the battery mounted on the back and you try to rotate the device, that battery will fall out. No smartphone or Wi-Fi app control at all with this panel. It is a dumb panel, but maybe that's what you're looking for. This is a cheap device. It is cheaply made. It is cheap feeling. The controls are super sloppy and clunky and not great. But I mean, it's a $35 panel. And then the fact that it doesn't come with a battery or a power cable, that you have to buy those separately, that's a downside too. That changes it a little bit. And then lastly, the Aputure. I actually have the least amount of bad things to say about the Aputure. It is just an awesome little light. It's small, so it can't really be used as a key light. So if you're looking to go out there and get a portable key light, this is not the option for you. But if you're not using it for that, awesome. My one only complaint is that the onboard controls for this light, again, they're kind of sloppy. Trying to go through the menus with the scroll wheel, which is also a button, not a great experience. So in conclusion, I think that all of these products are great in their own little way. I don't think there is any one of them that is the best. They are interchangeable in a few ways depending on what you're doing, but I think they each have a specific purpose. I really love that the Elgato and the Aputure lights are portable. These sit on my desk or in my desk drawer at all times. I'm constantly using them, whether it's for a TikTok or for a YouTube video. I love just grabbing them and going. And I use the magnets on both of these devices all of the time. Even for this video, earlier in the video, I used this Deity mic arm and then I mounted the Elgato light right to it. And that was actually being used as my fill light in addition to the key light. And I just had it like way out here, and it was perfect. That's such a niche thing, but I love it. Man, I should have shot this video with the lights on there. Oh man, missed opportunity. What if we do a backlight with the pink? We're gonna do it. So obviously having the RGB on the Aputure light is a plus. I use these Aputure lights as accent lights in a lot of my YouTube videos and in a few TikToks. It's just so handy. It's so small and so portable. It's great. So like I mentioned before, I cannot sit here and tell you which one of these products is the best. I think that they're all used for different things. It's going to be totally up to you what makes sense, both financially and logistically. So I hope that this review and overview was helpful to you. And if you're somebody who's in the streaming space or the gaming space or the content creation space and you are looking for more reviews and videos about tech hardware, just last month I released a bunch of videos on the new Beacon hardware, the Beacon mic, Mix Create, and the Mix. So if you're interested in learning about some more audio products in the content creation world, go out and check out those other videos. But if not, close the window and take care.